You're listening to the 49 Carats Podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats Podcast. I am your host, Steph, and this is an exciting episode, as it always is. I feel like I always say every episode is exciting, but that's because it is. Today, I have a guest host with me, Christopher Johnson. Chris is a 49ers fan. He's a big fan of the 49 Carats Podcast, and ever since me and Angie was doing our pods, he was very supportive and always had great comments on YouTube, and so it's a pleasure to have him on today. And we're going to talk about some undrafted free agents. Chris, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm good. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate you inviting me, Steph. No, I can't fill in the great shoes of Angie, but hopefully I make her proud.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. Before we jump into the undrafted free agent talk, I just want to talk really quickly about this giveaway that I got going on for the YouTube subscribers. Okay, so we have a giveaway for a Trey Lance jersey going on, for a men's large jersey going on, and first thing you got to do, you got to subscribe to the YouTube channel, okay? If you are already subscribed, that's awesome. You already did half of the work. The second thing that you have to do is you have to reply with the screenshot of your sub. And when I mean reply, you're going to have to jump on Twitter. Stragosaurus is my username on Twitter. Go to the pinned tweet, which is the giveaway tweet, okay? And reply to that one with the screenshot proving that you are subscribed to the channel. We're going to announce the winner on May 18th, next Wednesday. So be sure to tune in and be sure to enter for this contest. All right. Free Trey Lance jersey. And yeah, just make sure you subscribe and make sure you like this video as well. But let's just jump right into it, Chris. The 49ers, they brought in a lot of undrafted free agents, and I have the full list of that group. If you guys go to 49ersgoldmine.com, it is up there, undrafted free agent tracker. All right, but we're going to talk about some of the guys who we think have some good upside and could possibly make the 53 or make the practice squad. So, Chris, how about you start us off? Who do you think would be a good candidate here?
Yeah, so for the first, I think he's on your list too. So out of North Carolina, Jeremiah Gemmell, linebacker. I think that there are some various aspects that could lead to him potentially being on the 53 or at the very least the practice squad. I think for one, I think that I know he's a fan favorite, and I know I love him, but I think Dre Greenlaw could potentially be on the move at some point. So depending on if the Niners want to try to recoup some picks for the future, or they see that as an opportunity to get younger and cheaper in that position, because Dre will be due some money here coming soon. They may move on, but then also obviously barring injury or something like that could present an opportunity for him to land as well. But I think he's the first I'll put forth about for consideration. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Gemmell for sure. I mean, he's a guy who gets after it. He has good recognition. He reacts quickly. He had 236 total tackles, 20 of them for loss in his 3 years with the Tar Heels. So, I mean, there's definitely some potential there. And we can also point to all of the other linebackers that the 49ers have made productive, made successful. So I think that's one reason that he can stick around. This team loves linebackers. Credit to D'Amico Ryans for that. And this coaching staff does a phenomenal job developing these guys. I mean, again, Azeez Al-Shaair, Flanagan Fowles, Jonas Griffith, all of those guys they brought in as undrafted free agents. Jonas Griffith was actually someone who they traded away last year to the Broncos. And some of the reason for that was because they just had so many good linebackers, and they're not going to keep, 6 or more guys as linebackers on the 53. So, they were able to flip him for a pick. But, that could be the reason why someone like Jeremiah Gemmell doesn't stick around either, right? Because they have their core already, and I would even argue they have good depth already, right? So, it might be just a matter of there being too many linebackers already, and that could potentially, mean that he doesn't make the 53, but he could definitely make the practice squad.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that with Aziz's, he had a great last year, right? And he was looking strong even before that. So I think with, the steal that I would consider with, Aziz landing on the roster and such, it really provides opportunity potentially him take a more predominant role than, over Dre Greenlaw. But I could see them keeping Dre around, obviously, too, for depth, to your point. So, and the Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles is still around also. So I think it really looks, to what training camp's going to look like. I'm really interested to see how those guys look out there.
Yeah, the good thing with linebackers is they can also contribute on special teams, right? Which is always a plus. So depending on how he looks, like that could be one, thing in his favor to keep him around. And just really quickly wanted to show what the depth chart is looking at right now. Shout out David Lombardi. He, keeps this depth chart up to date. So as you can see on linebackers, they already got 5 guys who you can say are likely to make the rosters. Oren Burks is another one who they signed this offseason as a linebacker, and he figures to be, a special teams ace. So, someone who fills the role of depth and special teams already. So you can say that Gemmell can potentially be on the bubble already. But again, practice squad is still there. That's why it exists, so you can keep guys around and develop them at the same time. All right. I got one name for you as well.
One more thing, Steph. One more thing.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so another reason why I think that Gemmell has a strong chance to stick around is because the Niners gave him that $90,000 guarantee with his contract. So there were only 3 players that got guarantees, and we'll get to those in a second, but he was one of them. So he has the second highest guarantee of any of the undrafted free agents. So that gives the impression that, they see something in him. They anticipate him sticking around in some capacity. So yeah, I think it's a good first person to talk about.
Secrets, this is what I love about you, because like me and Angie, like we be doing a podcast, and you'd like come in the comments and have some like great insight that like we had no idea. So that was another good nugget right there for Gemmell. Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. I mean, if you give a guy guaranteed money, it means you have some investment in him, and probably means they want him to stick around. So that's definitely a good nugget. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, absolutely.
All right. Another guy I think is Jason Poe, and he is a fan favorite, right? And he, even before the 49ers selected him, a lot of people wanted the 49ers to bring him in as an undrafted free agent. I wouldn't have even been mad if they drafted him, but even better as, someone who they didn't have to, give up any draft capital for. Man, he is just an athletic freak. To me, he can do it all. So that right there, he has a lot of upside. He's played fullback, offensive guard, and I think tight end as well. So like, it's like, what can't he do? That right there, just he offers a lot of positional versatility, which is a huge thing for the 49ers, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So I think for me, that's one of the reasons that he could stick around. Yes, you can also develop him. He might be a little bit raw, but, I think just the fact that he offers that good depth that you like, that you can plug in different places. So I like Jason Poe a lot for that and being able to stick around. He might make it to the practice squad, right? Depending how this offensive line battle shakes out. There's a lot of new faces. There's a lot of competition at offensive line. But at the same time, I feel like that might not be so great for Poe. So maybe he makes it to practice squad. What do you think, though?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that Poe is such a unique undrafted free agent for all the reasons that you said. I want to give you all some facts real quick, right? So 6'1", 300 pounds, runs a 4.89 40. He put up 34 reps on the bench. So he's like, very, very strong, very compact, but, 6'1", solid size, 31.5-inch vertical leap. So, the guys, he can make some stuff happen with his body size, right? I think this is, I think this is, really interesting because we don't know what the interior offensive line looks like, right? What's Aaron Banks, going to look like year two? What's Daniel Brunskill? I mean, he has his moments. He shines against Aaron Donald, but there are other times where it's, kind of dicey a little bit. So I do think I agree with you. I think he has a outside, maybe not even so much outside chance, because with his versatility, with his background, to your point, playing fullback, playing tight end, he may have opportunities to have packages for him or something. I really see, different circumstances in training camp where, Shanahan gets creative and wants to, have him out there as a lead blocker, or maybe he's getting the ball. I don't know. I mean, I see Shanahan kind of like, scheming a little bit and really thinking that this guy may be able to provide a new dimension and a power perspective that we don't currently have, right? So, but then even, maybe he does just strictly stay offensive line. Maybe he's a guard that's out in space making things happen. So I think it would be really interesting to see what he looks like and what we're hearing from the writers and such when he's in training camp.
Yeah, especially rookie minicamp, that's going to be starting this weekend, I believe. So it'll be an interesting name to watch for sure. And I didn't even mention the fact that, he also offers some versatility at center. He could play center as well. And as we know, with Alex Mack being a big question mark right now, that could be something that they look at and be like, okay, maybe we should keep him around. So definitely another bonus point for him to be able to stick around with the team, maybe even on practice squad, like we said.
Yeah, I agree. I think that to your point earlier, like there were, he was on draft boards. Obviously he went undrafted, but he was one of the surprises in the draft that fell beyond the 7th round and such. So he could be someone that surprises us, right? He could be someone that we grab up and due to his versatility and what he's done in his past and his athleticism, could really make some new things happen in a new way that Shanahan can harness.
Exactly. Shanahan, like, being so creative that he is, I can't imagine like he doesn't look at a player like Poe who can do a number of different things and just like, his head is probably just exploding with all of these ideas, and someone as creative as him, I can only imagine. Who else do you have on your list as a UDFA that could stick around?
Another dude that I wanted to talk about was the safety out of Texas A&M, Leon O'Neal. I mean, and as a safety, we already know there's a little bit of unknown what's happening with Jaquiski Tartt, which, we can probably talk about in a moment. But, we've got Travarius Moore coming back from his Achilles from last offseason. Talanoa Hufanga, of course, is going to go into his second year. Leon O'Neal's got some good size. He did some great work over at Texas A&M. I went to the University of Florida, so we play Texas A&M every year. So every other year, actually. We're on a rotation with them. We play Missouri in the West every year. But at any rate, he's another guy that got some guarantees. He got a $60,000 guarantee with his signing. So that tells me that, they really want to invest in him from a figurative standpoint, letting him know that they feel as though he has something to bring to the team, to the table for some competition. I think the safety position is going to be something that's really interesting. I spoke of injuries earlier.
Yep.
Obviously, I don't want to put any jinxes out there or say anything like that, but we have had injury issues with at the safety position, right? So whether it's Jimmy Ward or Jaquiski Tartt. So I think that might provide some healthy competition, regardless of what happens with the signing of Jaquiski Tartt. They've invested in him with his guarantees, the second undrafted free agent of the three that got guarantees as well. So I think that he's someone to watch out for. I saw a report where he got interviewed after the draft, and he was saying that he's going to remember all the safeties that were picked before him, and that, the Niners are getting a dog and someone that's aggressive and so on and so forth. And, we already know that, sometimes when players are getting drafted, they talk that good game, but sometimes can't back it up. On the same token, I do like that aggressiveness. I do like that dog mentality from the safety position, going after the ball, being a ball hawk. I think that's something that O'Neal brings to the table, and something that honestly we need. I mean, I've got love for Jimmy Ward. I definitely got love for Jaquiski Tartt, but I think we would like to have some more pass breakups. I think we'll also like to have some more interceptions from that position also.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I agree that safety is a little weird right now. I think for us fans, like, we were definitely expecting them to draft one. And so it was a little surprising for them not to draft one at all. But here comes Leon O'Neal, who I mean, I think they're getting great value for him, right? He has some questionable speed and coverage skills, but like you mentioned, he has that dog in him. He's not maybe the best athlete, but he's good in other areas. And he was a Senior Bowl participant as well. I mean, you got to be pretty good to get that invite, in most cases. So I wonder, though, if he would maybe be a better fit in the Marcel Harris role, being that, some of the things that he does well, I think would translate better to, being a safety who's maybe a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's a very good point, too. I think he's a little bit bigger than Marcel Harris. Not that that's a problem. I think that does support your point. He's 6'1", 210, so he's got some good size on him. I agree. He appeared in 48 games with 32 starts in 4 years, 161 tackles, 18 pass breakups, 6 interceptions. So, and he's got some sacks on his record too. So to your point, I do agree with that. It sounds like he can maybe be in that kind of hybrid safety linebacker role that, Marcel Harris kind of transitioned into as his career with the Niners went on. And, it appears as if, he's not coming back with the squad, that the team's not going to re-sign him. So that's an excellent point, I think.
Yeah. So reasons that Leon O'Neal might stick around. Again, we figure there's not a lot of safety depth. I mean, obviously, it seems like the 49ers feel comfortable with their group, but how comfortable, I don't know. To me, I'm not entirely comfortable with it. So I would like for Leon O'Neal to stick around. I don't know if that is on the 53 man, but at least if he's on the practice squad. And like you mentioned, Chris, with that guaranteed money, it ensures that, even if he does make the practice squad, another team is going to have to possibly, well, if he is signed to another team's 53, the 49ers have no say in that, right? So they would have to they would have to reserve a 53-man spot for him, which I don't see another team doing at this point. So either that or they would have to pay him more money, right?
Yeah, I agree. And the real reason why I'm really concerned about the safety position, and to your point earlier, I thought that they were gonna certainly grab a safety in the draft, but is because of our health, our history of health at the position. You know what I mean? Jaquiski Tartt misses games almost, it seems, every year. I think Jimmy Ward played every game last year, if I'm not mistaken. So he was healthy. But he has his moments also. So that's something that I think, I think he's certainly someone that's gonna, land at the very least on the practice squad because of those reasons. The team certainly knows that. We've got to definitely, get a little younger at that position. Look for a little bit different dynamic there as well. kind of like the boom with the ability to cover in the back end, which I think Jimmy's pretty good with that, with the coverage and such. But I think that O'Neal can definitely lay the wood.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about another guy who played safety in college, Marcelino Mccrary Ball out of Indiana. I know you had him on your list, and the reason why I want to bring him up right now at this point, after we just finished talking about O'Neal, is because I thought it was interesting that when the 49ers announced that they signed all these free agents, they listed Mccrary Ball as a linebacker, and he had played safety, strong safety, at Indiana. So is that another indication that maybe they'd want him to move into that Marcel Harris role? I don't recall ever. I mean, I didn't know much about Mccrary Ball, but it didn't seem like he was that much of a hybrid in college. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I don't know if that was a misprint or whatever the case may be, or if it's more of an indication of the fact that they're looking for that the Niners like that kind of linebacker safety hybrid in general, right? Because Fred Warner, I think, played safety back in his day, right? So he has that skill set, but now he's down the linebacker, down in the box. And then, of course, Marcel Harris, safety, then slid down into linebacker and such. So I think that might be more indicative of the fact that, more of that positionless football, but in a very different way, like on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so definitely interesting. I wonder if that's like a D'Amico Ryans thing,
Right.
wanting a more hybrid approach there at safety. I had Ryan Roberts on my last episode from Rise and Draft Analyst. He pointed out Mccrary Ball as, someone who could potentially be a dart throw and who has potential to stick around for the 49ers. The issue with him is his injury history.
Okay.
So he had a season-ending injury, I believe, in 2017. He also tore his ACL prior to the 2021 season. So there's definitely some concern there that, if anything, that is probably why he did end up going undrafted. But, it sounds like he's an explosive player when he's healthy. And if he could play near the line of scrimmage like the 49ers, it seems like they would want him to. That could be a reason that he sticks around. He gives them that positional versatility. Again, something that I think the team definitely values a lot. Reasons that he might not stick around. Well, the team, as we mentioned, they're already pretty deep at linebacker. And maybe safety, they can add some more depth there. But I wonder, will there be some challenges to him transitioning to more of a hybrid linebacker role? Not sure. I think practice squad is possible, though, because if this is someone that they see as someone who they can develop, and maybe even, they take chances on a lot of guys that have injury history.
Yep.
So this can be another one of those players they take a chance on.
No, I agree. And you know what, Steph, as we're talking, I just thought of something that I really haven't before. And it might be because, when we're talking about like the linebacker and safety skill set, right? And, from D'Amico Ryans, or maybe that's even a holdover mentality from when Robert Saleh was D coordinator or whatever the case may be. We already know that they like to build inside out, right? Within the trenches and such. And I think that we're pretty deep on the defensive line. And I think that, there's a lot of aggressiveness and those guys just go and hunt the quarterback every play. I think that they may be also prioritizing, the run stopping element. So, whether it's the, safety that's able to transition into linebacker and be able to be out in coverage and cover well, but then also crash down and, stop the run, and vice versa. The linebacker that's able to stop the run, but then also has that safety element that can get out there in coverage and such. So it might just be I don't know if it's new, but it might just be a different kind of approach and dynamic to how they want to build their defense.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely seems that way. We saw last year, their cornerbacks weren't the strong point, and it seemed like the whole season they were okay with that until like all the injuries happened, and
Right.
lo and behold, they went and bolstered the cornerback group this offseason. That was a point of emphasis. So now it seems like they're saying, okay, maybe safety we don't need to worry about as much because we got all these corners who can cover. They might not need as much help. I don't know. But yeah, it definitely seems like there's a different approach that they're taking this year. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But you mentioned like the depth at defensive line. I have a guy on my list, defensive tackle Kevin Atkins, out of Fresno State, California native, and I like him. I saw a little bit of him. He's a guy who gets a lot of penetration, and there's definitely some room to grow there. But I see what I think they would like in a defensive tackle and someone on the defensive line, and just being that this team is so defensive line heavy. You mentioned they build in the trenches and all that. I feel like that's his upside, just him being a defensive tackle who does the things that they like. So I don't know if you've seen much of Kevin Atkins, but I think there's some upside there with him, and I could see Chris Kwanzaarez liking him.
No, I got what you mean. No, I agree with you there. And he's got some decent size, 6'2", 307, kind of got that Kalia Davis build to him a little bit. And something to keep in mind too, when we're talking about the undrafted free agents that might, stick around. So I think Kalia Davis is coming off of an ACL tear, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's got that DJ Jones kind of build to him. So, he may be kind of I don't know if it's security blanket's the right way to, to say it or whatever the case may be, but he may be able to, stick around maybe on the practice squad or whatever, in the sense that Kalia Davis is not ready to step in, or, is having some issues in his rehab or whatever the case may be. So I do agree. I mean, I think he's probably the next tier, away from Kalia Davis, but it does provide some additional depth for us to call on him if, Kalia Davis isn't ready.
Yeah, I think he even said like he wouldn't be ready at the start of the season. Right. So that right there, I mean, there's potential for Kalia Davis to spend his rookie season on the PUP list or the NFI. Which, yeah, I mean, that's a great point. That definitely gives Kevin Atkins an opportunity to stick around just off of that alone. And again, they feel they can never have too much defensive line depth, which I am okay with. I like all the guys they bring in, and it seems like, even if in the rookie year they're not like the best guy, year after year, these guys just keep improving. We can point to several defensive line players that they've brought in. And,
absolutely.
We see all of these guys improve. So Kevin Atkins could definitely, take advantage of that and stick around. So I like that one a lot. What about you? Is there another guy who you think can make the 53 practice squad?
Yeah, another dude I wanted to mention was Donovan West out of Arizona State, offensive lineman. He actually got the largest guaranteed portion of his contract at $100,000. So, I know he played center at Arizona State, and we've got that good kind of Arizona State kind of vibe with their coaching staff and such. So that gives me the impression from his guaranteed money. He actually got the highest of the three undrafted free agents that did receive guaranteed money. And also with the relationship that we have with Arizona State. Help me, Steph. What's their head coach's name? It's escaping me right now. I can see him.
The Arizona State head coach?
Yeah, I think John Lynch. John Lynch has a good relationship with him, but I know that he was instrumental in Brandon Ayuk. Herm Edwards, right. Yeah, he was instrumental in like providing some insight on Brandon Ayuk and such, and kind of reaffirmed Shanahan's, desire to go and draft him or whatever the case may be. So I get the impression that, obviously with their draft prep and their scouting and everything, and then with the connection with Herm Edwards and such, and with the guaranteed money, that he's a guy that they're seeing is probably going to stick around, and he may actually, make the 53 potentially as a year out or 2 years out from actually taking over that center position. To your point, not knowing what's going on with Alex Mack, we don't know how the team feels internally about Brunskill or even Brendel, serving in that center position, that center role. So this might be an opportunity to kind of like, shore things up a little bit and provide some extra stability and depth there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they do feel comfortable with Brunskill, right? Because they didn't draft the center, right? So as nervous as that makes me, I mean, that's just what that could mean. Or maybe they just don't want to play their hand before Alex Mack makes his announcement, and getting Donovan West as an undrafted free agent was a must for them. And you bring up the fact that he got the most guaranteed money out of all the 49ers undrafted free agents, and they kind of had to, because I remember seeing there was reports that 7 or 8 teams were interested in Donovan West, bringing him in after the draft ended. So the 49ers had to be not just quick, but they had to throw the most money at him. So it makes complete sense. And I am totally with you that I feel like he is someone who can make the 53 man, just for the simple fact that, one, I think he was better than, going undrafted, and then 2, he's smooth, he fits the system, and they might need him sooner than later, right? So I think that definitely bodes well for West. And, the one reason that he might not make the 53, I think he's for sure would at least make the practice squad. But one reason that he might not make the 53, is if Alex Mack returns, which, as we know, is a big if. It seems like he's leaning towards retirement based on just like everything we've heard, right? But if Alex Mack is not back, West does not provide as much, positional versatility on the offensive line compared to some other offensive line guys that they have, bubble guys. So that's maybe the only drawback, but I really don't think it's that much of a drawback. And obviously, if he is the superior, candidate,
right,
compared to some of the other offensive lineman options that they've brought in, then yeah, I mean, he can most definitely make the 53. Out of all of the undrafted free agents, I feel like West has the best chance to make the 53.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Notably because of where we are right now at the interior offensive line. I mean, now certainly, we never know what happens, right? I mean, we could go sign somebody or, a vet or something like that. But given the state of the interior offensive line right now, I think that, based on that, he definitely has the potential to make it more than probably anybody else.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to keep talking about some guys, but before we do that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you like this video. Bring us up in the algorithm. We all love that. And we're going to keep talking undrafted free agents. Do you have another guy that you really like?
I do. I wanted to talk about Tate Martin. So you already know that, as we all do, that Shanahan loves his receivers. And I was actually kind of interested as to why Tate Martin went undrafted. I mean, he had a really good season last year, starting all 13 games, for Oklahoma State, 80 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. And I think it may have been because of his size. He's 6'3", which is nice size, obviously, for a receiver, but he's 185. So, not a lot of bulk on him. Obviously, he can get in the weight room. They can put him on a plan, and he can definitely put some more meat on his body. But I think that also in 2020, he saw action in 8 games, had 15 receptions for 149 yards. So scouts and teams may have wanted to see a little bit more from him. They may wanted to see a little more consistency from just 1 year having a good season or whatever the case may be. But knowing that Shanahan likes his receivers, people stick around the practice squad, a la like River Craycraft, for instance. I could see him being someone that might, he might want to call up in the need that. Again, I mean, Debo, gets injured. Brand Ayuk has been injured, So, and, depth at the wide receiver position. I know we just got Ray McCloud and also the guy from the draft. What was his name?
Danny Gray.
There you go, Danny Gray. Yeah, the speedster. So I see Tate Martin kind of fitting in that kind of like Kendrick Bourne kind of Juwan Jennings kind of like vibe, you know what I'm saying? So I think he's an opportunity for sure to make the practice squad.
That's so funny you say that, because I was gonna put I did have Tate Martin as an honorable mention for this list, and the reason for that was because when I spoke to Ryan Roberts, so I showed him like the list of all our undrafted free agents, and I pretty much told him, okay, who intrigues you the most? So he pointed out a number of different guys, not everyone obviously, but Tate Martin was one of the guys he brought up, and he had that same kind of comparison to Kendrick Bourne. So it's funny you mentioned that. The reason he gave was because he's just one of those guys that is solid. Like, he's not going to do one specific thing very well, but he's someone you can depend on, right?
Sure.
Just like Kendrick Bourne. And, I love Kendrick Bourne and I love Juwan Jennings. I think I've called Juwan Jennings a better Kendrick Bourne. I still stand by that. But if they can get someone like Martin to, maybe develop, be on the practice squad, because you said it, they almost always have a wide receiver on the practice squad. And I'm just going to bring up the 90 man really quick. I mean, if you look at the top 6 guys, that's a pretty solid group. So I think they're good there. Even top 7 guys, right? Danny Gray. But if you look at the bubble guys, I feel like it's not crazy to think that Tate Martin could be better than Austin Mack, Keyshawn Johnson, or Connor Weddington, right? So,
right, for sure.
So I think he definitely can stick around as a practice squad guy, and I like his outlook long term.
No, yeah, I think that's well said. Certainly, I'm glad you had the depth chart from Lombardi too, because that provides a lot of insight and context to the conversation. Also, I think that it's going to be interesting. I think that wide receiver, that position in that room, in that group, is always a battle in training camp. I mean, especially knowing how from one season to the next, Shanahan has his, whatever you want to call it, drama, issues, whatever the case, with one wide receiver and another. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, definitely. But while we're on the conversation of, offensive playmakers, let's talk about a running back who they brought in as an undrafted free agent, Jordan Mason. And he's actually the only undrafted running back that the 49ers signed, which, I mean, you can call that a surprise, because I feel like they usually bring a lot of undrafted running backs into the mix. They've had success doing that, but they also drafted Tyrion Davis-Price. So, and as we know, last year, Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. So they probably feel pretty comfortable with that position, and I don't blame them. At the same time, though, I feel like there's some good value in Jordan Mason, and shout out Imagidad Nation on Twitter. He absolutely loves Jordan Mason, and he has been like posting clips on him. And I always saw, anytime there's a undrafted running back the 49ers bring in, you're like, like that, he could be sneaky, like he could make the roster. You never know. So I already kind of thought that, but then he kept posting these clips about him, and I'm like, okay, like he's pretty good. He's done a lot of homework on him, and so I'm kind of sold on the idea that he could potentially stick around. He just looks to be a running back that fits what Kyle Shanahan typically likes in his running backs. He's agile, he has a lot of short area quickness, and he just looks like he could be an undrafted free agent gem, that the 49ers like to bring in.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something. So I don't know too much about Jordan Mason, but I will say this. So it looks like he's been in 43 games when he was at Georgia Tech. So he appeared in 43 games in 5 years. He had 20 starts, so he started about half of that time. But he registered 449 carries and over 2,300 yards. So doing the math there, that's about 5.2 yards a carry. So the guy can move, get around, to your point, had 17 touchdowns. In 21, he appeared in all 12 games and had 387 rushes for 439 yards. So, it'll be interesting to see that, actually, because I could see someone like him maybe sticking around. Like, I didn't know anything about JaMycal Hasty before we picked him up, right? And, JaMycal Hasty might be someone that we potentially move on from, considering the number of, running backs that we have in that room right now.
Right.
Maybe Shanahan and again, Anthony Lynn, he's the running game coordinator now, right? So, he may have had a say in some of these, this pickup also. He was the only running back taken, to your point. So maybe Jordan Mason is kind of seen in that kind of new JaMycal Hasty role. I mean, JaMycal Hasty, obviously, as we know, began on the practice squad and then got called up due to injury. So it'll be interesting to see what he looks like in camp.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that. I mean, if you look at the list of running backs that they have, again, great core of guys, but if you look at the bubble guys, I mean, I think Jordan Mason could potentially be better than JaMycal Hasty, and I am a JaMycal Hasty fan.
Right.
Granted, we haven't seen Jordan Mason, right? Like we're just speaking based off of how he did in college, and I mean, you said it. He's been pretty good there. In 2019, he had his best year, 172 carries, nearly 900 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I think the issue was that he didn't quite build off of that year, you can say. So, he does have some things to prove, but I think he can stick around at the very least as a practice squad guy, and again, with the upside to potentially be someone who joins the running back rotation. Again, running back, there's a lot of injuries that happen, and it seems like the 49ers have made it somewhat a point of emphasis to get some more depth in that group with all the recent draft capital that they have given up on running back. So I think that's a point for him to potentially stick around. Reasons why he might not. You can also point to the fact that it's already pretty crowded, right? So maybe if he doesn't really outperform, JaMycal Hasty, then, he might not make it. And you mentioned Anthony Lynn, who Anthony Lynn actually, he likes running backs who can catch the ball.
Yep.
Right. He has a history of that. And Jordan Mason was actually never a big, pass catching running back. So that could be a point against him, I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. And that could kind of lead more to the camp body aspect of things. Be interested to see how that can potentially develop, if at all. But yeah, that's an excellent point.
Yeah. Who's another guy that you have on your list?
So I know you wanted to talk about Kwanzaarez Knight. So my fiance, she went to USC. So, she would probably hate a little bit if I was giving love to a guy from the UCLA. But, Kwanzaarez Knight has definitely made some plays. I've seen him play over the last couple of years. He's a guy that I think could come in and potentially, again, unfortunately, I mean, we just got to speak facts, right? We have issues sometimes with injuries in the DB room. He's got some solid size, 6 foot, 199. So, Emmanuel Mosby kind of build, if you will, probably a little bit taller, but probably about the same size weight wise as Emmanuel Mosby. Started in 19 games in 2 years at UCLA and had 106 tackles, 13 tackles for loss, 9 pass breakups, and he had some sacks. So, he's got that versatility. Of course, our corners, the game is a little bit different than, playing out in the Pac-12, but, the way that our scheme is with the Niners. But, he's got that versatility in that sense, can put bodies on quarterbacks, can put bodies on running backs and tight ends coming out of the backfield and out in coverage and such as well. So I think that that's probably what most attracted, DeMeco Ryans and the defensive coaching staff to Kwanzaarez Knight.
So let me ask you this, because I haven't watched a lot of Kwanzaarez Knight. I've just heard a lot of people, mentioning him as someone who, intrigues them on the 49ers UDFA list. So I've kept him on my radar. But I want to ask you this. If it came down to Kwanzaarez Knight and Leon O'Neal, who do you think they would take? Because I know you said that Leon O'Neal has that guaranteed money.
Yeah, that's a good question. So if I had to, I'm already a Leon O'Neal fan. I've got to tell you, if you go to 49ers web zone and check out a story, I saw them tweeted out a week or so ago after the draft or whatever the case. I would just, the guy had me hyped. I was sending it to other Niner fans here in Tampa. Shout out to the Niner Empire Tampa. But and I was like, I'm already a fan of this guy, So I think that I think Paul will be leaning towards a little bit more towards Leon O'Neal. But the question actually could more so be too. I'm not sure if Kwanzaarez Knight would be more on the boundary or if he would be at safety, right? Because I think Leon O'Neal is probably going to be more of a pure safety. So, if it had to, come between the two of them, regardless of, if they had to, pick the position or pick, a slot to be filled based on how many, roles they have or whatever, probably Leon O'Neal.
All right. Yeah, I think that makes plenty of sense. And Kwanzaarez Knight probably, could be a practice squad candidate at the very least, I think. So they have a lot of safety depth right now. I think it's weird because safety is like a question mark. I feel like there's a lot of depth, but not anyone that we're like, oh, he's a starter. Besides Jimmy Ward, obviously. And, you could say Talanoa Hufanga, obviously they like him. Tarvarius Moore, we don't know what he looks like after his injury. Before he got injured, I think he would have ran away with that. But to me, there's still some question marks. So I'm like, I don't know.
I agree with you because I think, the thing with Tarvarius Moore is, he's known for his speed, but I think that sometimes, he frustrates some fans probably with like his coverage skills. He finds a way to be around the ball on the same token. He had that nice interception in the Super Bowl. But that being said, again, going back to what I think his claim to fame is his speed, right? What does that look like a year removed from the, Achilles? Is he back to form? Is he still kind of rehabbing? We've seen how that's gone, right? Sherman came to us with an Achilles injury a year out or so, and, he still wasn't quite, there yet. Not that Sherman ever had like blazing speed, but that being said, it's still, I think what I'm seeing too is like that some of these undrafted free agents potentially are kind of depth pieces for some of the players that we do have on the active roster who are still coming off of injury. And that even, I still add Kalia to that too, considering him to be on the active roster. He doesn't get drafted where he's at to be, a practice squad player. But so that being said, I think some of these cats definitely are kind of backup. Not backup. They're there for insurance, if you will, in case that it doesn't work out in another sense with the starters or the players on the 53. It's interesting because you mentioned it earlier too, like with some of the needs that, that we had with interior offensive line and safety, the Niners kind of acted throughout the entire draft as if like the draft just came to them, right? That, I'm sure every team probably says, oh, the draft went exactly how we wanted it to go. But with some of these undrafted free agents, it's possible that they've had their eyes on them, and they were hoping that they'd have the opportunity to get them, either in the draft or as an undrafted free agent, depending on how the board went, because there certainly wasn't any trades, up or down and, in that regard. So, by all indications, as we're seeing it, it gives the impression that, the team really, the draft kind of, the players that came to them based on their scouting and, the needs that they were trying to fill, they kind of fulfilled what they were looking for. So we'll see though, for sure.
Yeah, we'll see. They have a lot of solid guys, but again, someone to me needs to emerge as like the clear cut guy opposite like Jimmy Ward.
Yeah.
All right, I got one more guy. Sam Schluter, offensive lineman. We can point to the fact that there's a lot of movement on the offensive line that has happened this season. And so it seems like they're looking for guys to step up at several spots. And so I think that could bode well for someone like Sam Schluter. His pass blocking could use some work. Oh, and by the way, we on 49ers Goldmine, we had Brett Rumbeck. He just posted a really great Sam Schluter deep dive. Like he had clips, and it was just very in depth. So if you were curious about Sam Schluter, definitely check that one out. It was very informative. So again, his pass blocking could use some work. He can continue working on his technique. But again, for offensive linemen, we keep pointing to this. They offer positional versatility. And when they have that, there's just a point for them to stick around right there. So that increases his upside and his value. Reasons why he might not stick around, there just might be superior competition. Like I said, there's a lot of guys in the mix. So someone could maybe, perform better than him in rookie mini camp, in OTAs and whatnot. So I think he can land on the practice squad. And, if not, he might be a cut candidate, but there's potential for practice squad, I think.
Yeah, I agree. This guy's a beast. I mean, he's 6'6", 309, out of Minnesota, so played in the Big Ten. I mean, they're known for having, the power running game. You're banging up against Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State every year. You've got to be able to, be solid down in the trenches. You mentioned Brett Rumbeck. Yo, shout out to Brett Rumbeck. If you don't follow him, then you definitely got to follow him. He puts out like great content, especially after games and such the week afterwards. And it's excellent. But no, I agree with you. And it's interesting, Steph. So one of the things that kind of frustrates me a little bit sometimes with the zone running scheme is outside zone running scheme. I like it. I like, having shifty running backs. I can, hit the cut and or stop on a dime and get upfield. And you've got linemen, blocking at a, more of a zone area to a space as opposed to just, hitting whoever's in front of them. That being said, sometimes that doesn't always translate unless you're Trent Williams into being a good pass blocker, right? Being able to get out in space, and blocking the outside zone running game and so on and so forth in that regard. So that being, to your point, he may need some more work on his pass blocking, but that may not be. I think that Shanahan, as I've kind of seen in his time coaching and such, he kind of more so prioritizes those linemen that can get out in space more than necessarily being able to pass block as well. He rather, he prioritizes, the outside zone run game than the pass blocking, which personally frustrates me a little bit because, we pay the quarterback to throw the ball and he's time to do so. But so I'm just saying that, although you made an excellent point, that might be something that, put him on the practice squad, have him hone that a little bit. And he may be someone that's kind of sneaky, God forbid, injury or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. So, man, it's going to be very interesting what happens with all of these guys. I feel like, the 49ers have had an incredible undrafted free agent class. This group is very strong. And my fear is that it's so strong that if some of these guys don't make the roster, they're gonna end up getting swooped. We'll see what happens though. I mean, maybe not. Maybe they can keep some of these guys on the practice squad, or as we see almost every year, there's someone who gets hurt. Maybe even it's a quote unquote hurt, and they spend a year on the pup list, right? And the 49ers are able to keep them around. So we'll see what happens with some of these guys, but obviously a great group. And I think some of these guys are going to be able to contribute sooner than a lot of us probably think they will.
I agree. And something I wanted to share with you too is just kind of like the distribution, right? So of the undrafted free agent class, we had one tight end, one defensive back, three linebackers, one defensive lineman, three offensive linemen, two receivers, two safeties, and one running back. So that kind of gives me the impression as to maybe where some of the emphasis was. You spoke about it earlier with linebacker. In offensive line, we kind of talked about not knowing what that interior looks like, notably with like what Alex Mack's near or distant future looks like. Two wide receivers. We know Shanahan loves his wide receivers, and two safeties. So those are some of the positions that I feel like there might be there was an emphasis for the Niners to ensure that they provided that extra depth as you've spoken to, and also that insurance for maybe some of the rostered players that we have that are still coming off injury.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be very interesting to see. Again, rookie minicamp starts this weekend. So, we're going to be following what's going on Twitter, making sure all our favorite guys are performing well. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting training camp and cut down to the 53 for sure. But Chris, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been awesome, man. And I'm glad I can give you like your first bit of exposure to podcasting.
Sure.
We're going to have to do this again. This was great.
Without a doubt. Anytime you'll have me, I'll be here. I appreciate you so much.
For sure. And you guys watching, appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the channel, like this video. And again, I'm giving away a Trey Lance jersey. So make sure you hop on over to Twitter. You got to be subscribed to the channel. That's one. And two, you got to go to that Twitter post. It's the pinned tweet on my Twitter at Stragosaurus, and reply to that with the screenshot proving that you are subscribed. Winner announced next week. All right. So with that, enjoy the night, enjoy the week, and talk to you guys later. Peace.